Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Bump Podcast, a place for the believers of the unexplained, monsters, and paranormal. Join us, and we'll go face to face with what goes bump in the night. Hey there, believers. Got a great episode for you today. This is take 2 on this introduction. My mind is already on Derek Olson. Oh, did I say Derek Olson? That's who our guest is this week. I'm trying to think of some stuff to have ready for him because this man's a wealth of knowledge, and I don't want his second time on the show to be wasted. I love having him on. I want to pick his brain about what's been going on with his account. Looks like it's been getting shadow banned, maybe. Also, that's happening at the same time that all this news in Peru about these Peruvian face peeler alien gold miner with jetpack, all that stuff's going on at the same time. So why is his account being shadow banned? Is it because he's hovering over the target? Does he realize something that they just now realize that he realizes? Does he know the truth in Peru? I think so. Are these Peruvian face peelers that guy? For those of you that are just listening, I'm pointing to the Flatwoods Monster statue. Sometimes I forget that videos are a small part of this show. Yeah, I think there could be a connection between the Flatwoods Monster and the face peelers. But regardless, I'm excited to have Derek Olson on the show today. We're going to talk about Peru. We're going to talk about legends. We're going to talk about Megalithic Marvels and whatever else he's got going on. I'm just happy to have him on. Blessed to have an hour or so with him. All right, so I'll shut up. You guys just get ready for a great episode. All right, I think we're on. How's it going, Derek?
It is going great. Pumped to be back with you, man, and talk about some very interesting topics, to say the least.
Absolutely. I thank you for taking the time to do this. I know we talked before I hit record, and I feel goofy rehashing hellos, but you know it is what it is for the show. I saw a post that you had on Instagram, and it was talking about the shadow ban or the censorship that you seem to be facing on your show, like doing the search engines, and you're not coming up. And Megalithic Marvels is huge. I know you have well over 300,000 on Instagram, and I think you're like over 1 million on TikTok or YouTube or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I've got some other channels too. I think YouTube actually, I'm almost at 300,000, and TikTok's got a couple 100,000. So yeah, we've been trying to rock and roll.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's jumping, and for it to not show up in search engines, that kind of shocked me. And for me, the timing was weird because it was at the same time as the Peruvian news, outbreak of these face peelers and stuff like that. Do you think that the shadow ban was involved in that, or do you think it's about more than that, about just the historical content?
Great question, Bo. I think, it could. I think, obviously the last several years we've seen this increased censorship of just anything that doesn't fit the mainstream narrative of news, right?
Right.
And I think now, as we've gotten 3 years away from 2020, in my humble opinion, that I've seen from what I do with, focusing mostly on, forbidden history, right? We've seen this mass awakening of people realizing, okay, fake news isn't just modern day news, it's also historical news. And it's been fun. It's been the funnest last couple of years, where I think that's part of the reason I've seen such growth, is there's a huge groundswell of interest into there is a cover up of history. And so people are jumping on Megalithic Marvels. Joe Rogan's really done a huge part in this with his show, right? Bringing on the Graham Hancocks of the world and talking about lost civilizations, and then Graham's Netflix documentary, Ancient Apocalypse. I mean, that show alone, I think, red pilled millions because they were like, oh, since it's a official Netflix documentary, it can't be that crazy. And so they
Good
start
point.
watching this stuff and realizing, oh man, you mean the earth might be way older than we've been told, and lost civilizations and technology. And so I think what's happening most likely is that the search engines, the algorithms, especially Facebook and Instagram, because that's where I've gotten hit the hardest, are clamping down on any hashtags or keywords that will direct people to these topics. And so I think the reason I'm getting hit the hardest is because my main account name is Megalithic Marvels.
Right.
Well, I started to get inboxes from people saying, "Hey, like I heard about you on this podcast, so I wanted to follow you on Instagram, and I literally couldn't find you. I had to, I couldn't find you because of the search. I had to find you. I eventually found you because you collaborated on a post like with Blurry Creatures or something, right?
Oh,
And I
wow.
saw you and I clicked on you. So, I heard this enough times where I thought, man, I need to try this out. So you might have seen I did a video with a screen recording. When you type in the word megalithic, it's literally banned. Um, so
Wow.
so I think it's not just my hashtag or name Megalithic Marvels, but it's anything that has the word megalithic in it, nothing appears. And so that's why my account isn't appearing. So if you type in Megalithic Marvels, at least as recent as this recording right now, for months I haven't popped up. My account doesn't pop up, none of my reels pop up. The tens of thousands of posts with the Megalithic Marvels hashtag don't pop up. And, unfortunately, it's really caused my channel to stop growing. So, like, if you look at my stats, they've just flatlined.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it lends to that I'm over the topic, I guess, in a way that's threatening the powers that be, as ridiculous as that sounds. But why else would you? And what sucks is, you spend years on these platforms building a community, building their community, building their app, Instagram, and then you're punished like this. And you try to get help and you literally can't get any help anywhere. So it's been frustrating, man, but I guess I just try to harness that to I guess we are awakening minds and just got to keep pushing forward and evolving in other spots. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Man. I wouldn't even know where to go to try to get that resolved. I mean, if it's being blocked, obviously it's Instagram itself, right? That's doing the blocking. And it's interesting that it's anything that says megalithic. Um, what do you think that is? Is it who would be in control of that? I don't know. That just blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I think yeah, I think they know so many people are getting into these alternative history topics, right?
Yeah,
And so once you start going down that road, where it gets dangerous for the establishment is if you start to realize, okay, there's more to history than we've been led to believe, this threatens a lot of people that have made a career in giving us fake history. It means most of the books we read were fake. It means everything your history and college teachers were telling you. I'm not everything, but a lot of it was, fake.
yeah,
And and then we start asking questions like, well, where's the technology? Right?
right,
Where's the technology they had back then? Where is it today? And like you go to Egypt, I was just there this past May, and you start to realize, man, all of these, if the pyramids were really these giant holistic like ancient energy generators, um, and they were just using water and geology and magnetism, why aren't we doing that today?
Right.
Why are we blowing stuff up with nuclear power? And when you realize that all these ancient Egyptian temples were meant to heal the body and regenerate the body, again, in a holistic way, you start to go, okay, maybe there is something to holistic nutrition today and organics and grounding, and maybe I don't need that injection or that pill, right? And so
Right.
you can see where the onion starts to really be peeled back in a way that they want to get ahead of.
Yeah. Yeah. So ultimately, a show like yours, you're with your podcast, with your Instagram account, with your social media, it's it's dipping into the pockets of even big pharma. Uh, Ultimately, it's like that, oh, ripple effect, and you got quite a following, and there's a lot of people that listen to you and respect the research that you've done. When, like I said, when it first started with the news coming out about these Peruvian face peelers, and then I scroll on down and I see that you were being censored. I thought, oh no, did he say something about these face peelers? Is it because he's so involved in what, the history of Peru? And that's a question for you. Is there a connection between? Is there any kind of ancient reference about these face peelers, or these? I don't know what the name was that they called them. Like, is that the astronaut in the Nazca Lines? You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like what is your opinion on what's going on down there?
Hey, that would make for an epic reel. The face peelers were the Nazca artists. I love it.
Right.
Yeah, there is these legends that and maybe I should just back up for people that might be going, hey, what are you guys talking about face peelers?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Um, so I think it started about in July. There was news started to come out of Peru, a village called San Antonio, I believe. It's up in the northern part of Peru, deep in the jungle of the Amazon. And the people live there are called, I think it's pronounced the Akito tribe. And so news started to come out of here that there was some strange entities appearing, and I think it came out of a teenage girl, I believe, being abducted in the jungle. Somehow she escaped and makes it back to her village, but she had injuries. And there's some videos you can find on this of YouTube. Looks like her neck has been cut,
Yeah.
lacerated in a way. And so the villagers, they are assuming this is some enemy tribe, or this is some kind of human kidnapper. They go out into the jungle. They're looking for who these evil perpetrators are, only to find out to their horror that these are entities that they say continued to terrorize them for weeks following, I believe. So much so that the villagers end up somehow getting the Peruvian military and or police to show up, which they did. You can see them there on the scene in videos. And again, the crazy part is in this new climate of disclosure, uh, at least the Peruvian media was covering this with a serious tone. It wasn't like they were mocking this. If you watch the videos, reporters they're talking very serious, like this
Oh,
is a
yeah.
full-on attack. The craziest part is these villagers basically state that these perpetrators were like 7 foot tall green entities wearing some kind of masks and even had body armor on. And the craziest part was they had like discs, right, that enabled them to
Right.
hover through the jungle and fly through the forest. And so just it sounds so sensational, right? And literally crazy. I remember when I first heard this, I'm thinking, man, this is a great sensational story to get the clickbait. But then you watch the videos of these people terrified on camera. You see this girl cut up, beat up. You kind of go, whoa, wait, what is going on here? And so the crazy part is, I heard Timothy Alberino breaking down how the actual legends of these people in this area of the Amazon, and there is some, I believe, Spanish word for it that translates as face peelers, right?
Right.
And these are known to be entities that abduct and actually mutilate villagers. And it's freaky because in a similar area, did you see the video of the guy being pulled kind of out of that river with no
Yes.
face?
With no face. Yes.
Dude, I don't know if that was, you know, if that was Photoshop and some kind of fancy technology. That's the best I've seen, but that like stopped me in my track seeing that video. Because again, this is, you can go search for this on YouTube, maybe use the words face peeler Peru, but this was in the same general area, I believe, as this incident with a girl. And this guy is being, and he's being pulled out of kind of this near this river. He was covered up, his face was covered because of what was so grotesque that I'm going to describe here. But these are police, I believe, pulling him out. That they obviously got the report that there's something you need to check here. And when they roll the body over, you literally see, like, his face has been peeled off to where it's just white bone underneath, and
Yeah. Yeah.
very, very shocking. So don't watch it with your kids. But
Yeah,
so
man.
that's what
When I saw that, I thought, no way. I and as I wasn't trying to be morbid about it, but I had to watch that 3 or 4 times and like, come on, is this for real? And I don't see how that would be fake. Um, just knowing like the climate of how everything was, and you know, these were definitely people. If this was faked, they weren't aware of it. Um, he's covered up with like banana leaves on the riverbank, and
right.
yeah, and it was absolutely horrifying. Yeah, I think it was Tim Alborino's video that was on YouTube that had the little clip, because it's only a few seconds long, and
Right.
it is shocking.
Yeah, shocking to say the least. And so, yeah, maybe that is the connection, because you've got, obviously, we're in this crazy age of UFO disclosure unlike we've ever seen in our lifetimes, at least guys our age. And so it's like, the media starting to cover this stuff somewhat seriously instead of just laughing and winking like they used to.
Hmm.
But Peru, as we know, happens to be the home of some of the greatest megalithic marvels on the planet. And I don't know if I shared last time. I don't know if I ever talked about some of my experiences in Peru, but there was one experience I had at a very little known site high in the, it's called the Sacred Valley of Peru.
Hmm.
So it's not far from Machu Picchu. And what makes this my favorite site is it's not this massive site like Machu Picchu. It's a cave high in the Andes Mountains. And I'll never forget our tour guide years ago who took me there, Brian Forster. He said, we're going to go up kind of in a desolate area, and we're going to hike up the side of this mountain, and you're going to see something that's going to blow your mind. And so we hike through this ravine, these old railroad tracks. We scale the side of this mountain, and you can see up in the distance this huge cave. And I mean, just a cave alone is cool to me. Hey,
Yeah,
let's go
man.
see this cave. Maybe there's some Inca ruins from, the 1300s. That'd be cool. You get in this cave, and there is precision 3D megaliths on two sides. One, a whole face of the cave inside has been literally, looks like laser cut away, and there's a 3D faux door. So, it looks like a door that goes into the mountain, but obviously it doesn't. It's a false door,
Wow.
but it's got all these layers that lead to the door. Just trapezoidal. I mean, looks sci-fi, right? And then at the entrance to the cave is what some would call a altar, or it could even look like a console out of Star Trek. Trapezoidal, triangular, precision, laser-like cuts. And so you look into the Inca legends, because obviously I don't believe the Inca created this. They found it eons later, and they repurposed it as a sacred site.
Right.
And the Inca legends of the site are that this was a portal. This was a Stargate, if you will, right? Where the
Yeah.
sun, so on the one console altered like spot, there's almost these, it sounds crazy, but these seats that you would either sit in or kneel in. There's a laser like hole through the top of it. Unfortunately, a lot of it was blown off. So it must have looked incredible in antiquity. But apparently, at a certain equinox, the sunbeam will pass through that hole, and the ancients would, according to the Inca, press their forehead into that. And this would give you some kind of, consciousness enlightenment key to go then enter the portal and travel to other dimensions,
What?
right? So all that sounds crazy, but the craziest part of the story, and I didn't share this last time, did I?
No.
Okay.
No.
Crazy part of the story is we're up there, and so our guide had brought along this Incan kind of shaman type guy who you could tell he thought the site was so sacred, he wouldn't let us enter the cave without him blowing incense on us. And he's like, we've got to appease the spirits. So I was kind of freaked out going in, like, oh boy, what am I getting myself into?
Yeah,
Didn't know I
man.
was gonna be hanging out with an Incan shaman. Uh, but I know who I'm covered by. So I go in there.
Amen.
And so after we had looked around at these incredible megaliths and heard kind of the legends, this Incan shaman says, hey, everybody kind of sit in a circle in the cave and let's just meditate. And he pulls out a drum, and he basically said something like, just welcome in the spirits. And so now I'm thinking, oh man, now I'm getting nervous. And he starts beating on his drum and he's singing, kind of just was a really beautiful ancient Incan like chant. And where it gets crazy is it did seem peaceful and quiet for a couple of minutes as he's singing, and gentle breeze blowing through this cave. You're high in the Andes Mountains, and I'm like, man, this is what ancient exploration looks like.
Yeah, buddy.
Suddenly, a lot of people have their eyes closed, because they're just chilling, meditating. Suddenly, we hear a blood curdling scream. Blood curdling. You know, everybody opens their eyes, and this guy in our group is literally terrorized with fear, and he's shaking, flailing his arms, and literally screaming bloody murder.
Oh my
I'm
God.
thinking, what is going on? Right? A lot of us rush over to this guy, like, is he having a heart attack? Is he, did some snake come out and bite him? Like, I don't know. And this guy but you could tell pretty quickly this was spiritual or something, right?
Yeah.
Um, I even thought demon possession, like what in the heck? When this guy chilled out finally, um, he basically told this story. And for the record, I should say he had let us he had let us all know before that he was a proud atheist. Days before, on the trip.
All
And
right.
this guy was from India. Really, I mean, he was a brilliant guy, super smart, proud atheist. So he goes on to say how he was just doing what the Incan shaman said. He was trying to meditate and just being in a receiving position. And he saw a puma come out of that portal false door and enter him. And literally basically turned him white and scared him to death.
Yeah.
And so that's crazy on many levels. Even the fact that he was a proud atheist, right?
Right.
Um, but to me, it showed a parallel of some of these ancient megalithic sites and the spiritual realm, right?
Yes.
and even technology. So I guess I felt like that was appropriate to share with all the craziness coming out of Peru. I've seen it with my own eyes. This stuff is real. Whether you see an entity or not, I mean, you better be careful what you're opening yourself up to. So, what do you think about that story?
That blows my mind. Um, he saw a puma come out of that what we thought was a false door at the beginning of this story. So obviously that's the portal. Um, man, I I don't even know where to go from there. That I might have told you that we had a an experience where we tempted something that we probably shouldn't have tempted when we went out on a little exploration of our own on these ridges here in Appalachia, and we discovered a snake mound that had been abandoned. Um, it had been referenced in a newspaper like 50 years ago. A historian found it, and it sparked our interest in it. So we went out there and found it, and it wasn't a portal that I know of. But while we were there, you could hear, as we would say certain psalms, because we went up there and we basically tried to, you know, poke the bear, stir up the hornet's nest a little bit. We went up there with
Whoa.
anointing oil and reading psalms, and by the time we left, we were getting escorted out. It seemed like almost by owls. You could hear them back there, and then when we go home, just about every guy in our group, there was about 6 or 8 of us. We all had some kind of high sketch, weird experiences for the next couple of weeks going on around the house or in our families and stuff. So I definitely believe that there is power in these locations. Um, for this atheist to have his spiritual awakening there, I couldn't imagine. I guess that for him, the flailing and stuff. If he doesn't believe in the spiritual world, did he really think that a puma was coming out of that door?
What's interesting about the puma is that the puma is actually the sacred kind of animal of that area. So like even if
Hmm.
you look at the shape of Cusco on Google Maps, it's actually made into that of a puma.
Really?
If you go to Sacsayhuaman, if you Google Sacsayhuaman, that's one of the sites where the biggest, most incredible megaliths you've probably seen pictures of. There's like a puma paw that goes straight up, hidden in the stones. And people have also, I believe, found like the actual head and body and tail of a puma. So if you type in that site in puma, you'll probably see those pop up.
Wow.
And so yeah, it's got all the sacred geometry they call it, and was basically, I believe, even maybe like something the Inca themselves worship. So much craziness with all that, but yeah, that was a crazy experience. So at all these ancient sites, I mean, there's a reason that people are drawn to them. Obviously, I'm drawn to them for its historical significance and
Right.
because I believe it's evidence of lost technology. But it's interesting that at all these sites, you find people that are in search of healing, that are in search of uh, all the stuff, right? That some might call new age. They're attracted to these sites like magnets. And it's because there really is energy emanating from them.
Yeah.
Um, that might sound weird to some people, but I mean, in Egypt on our last trip, we had a doctor on our trip who deals in some really high tech, holistic um, practices to heal the body. And so she kind of went to Egypt just always wanting to go. She didn't know a whole lot about what these ancient temples were. It was so interesting to talk to her because once she kind of learned um, from myself and from Muhammad Ibrahim, our tour guide, who's also one of the foremost Egyptologists who's actually broken with the mainstream. So
Yeah.
he's a super brave guy to say what he says. But when she started to learn about the geology and how these ancient temples were being used by the ancients for fertility and healing the body, she was literally making the parallels to the stuff we're trying to create and get back to today, right? And she says we're barely scratching the surface of what they had. But the craziest part was seeing her encounter some of this energy